Regret, a force that binds the mind and clouds our judgment, is the result of misaligned actions and misguided thoughts. It seeks to linger in the past, dragging us away from the present and impeding the path to virtue. Yet in the realm of Stoicism we find that such a force can be overcome, not by escaping our mistakes, but by understanding them, accepting them, and using them to sharpen the mind. The Stoic way teaches us that to live without regret, one must first grasp the truth that everything outside of our control is not worthy of our suffering. We must recognize that only our actions, guided by wisdom, can determine our course and thus our peace. Today we will explore how to align our lives with Stoic principles to free ourselves from the chains of regret, embracing each moment with purpose, clarity, and unwavering resolve. The art of living without regret is not found in avoiding errors, but in cultivating the wisdom to see them as mere stepping stones towards the mastery of self. Understanding regret and its power over use. Regret is a heavy burden, one that we often carry without realizing its true weight. It creeps into our thoughts like a shadow, casting doubt on our past choices, magnifying our mistakes, and distorting the clarity of our present moment. Regret is not merely a fleeting emotion, it is a chain that binds us to the past, a force that pulls us backward when we should be moving forward. In its grip, we forget that the past is gone, it is no longer ours to change. We become prisoners of what could have been, rather than the architects of what still can be. To understand regret through the Stoic lens, we must first acknowledge that it is born from the same source as all severing our attachment to things beyond our control. Regret, like fear or anger, arises when we focus on that which is not ours to command. We regret because we believe that we should have acted differently, that things should have gone another way, but we fail to see that such beliefs are rooted in illusion. The Stoic truth is this: what has happened is beyond our power to alter. What remains within our grasp is how we respond to what is, not what was. The Stoics, led by the teachings of Epictetus, remind us that everything in life is divided into two realms, that which is within our control and that which is beyond it. Our thoughts, our actions, our choices, these are ours to shape. The outcome, the reactions of others, the consequences, these are not. To regret is to forget this fundamental truth. It is to believe that we can change the past, that we can undo what has already been done. And yet no amount of regret can ever rewrite history. It is a fool's errand, a chase after a phantom. To focus on regret is to waste the precious time we have now, and it robs us of the opportunity to learn from our mistakes and grow. Regret stems from a misunderstanding of our role in the universe. We are not masters of fate, nor can we dictate the flow of events. However, we are masters of how we choose to act in response to life's unfolding. When we look back on past decisions, it is tempting to ask, what if I had done this differently? Or what if I had made a different choice? But such questions are rooted in the belief that we could control the uncontrollable, that we could shape a different outcome by wishing it so. This is not the way of the Stoic. To live without regret, we must first come to terms with the fact that everything in life is transient and unpredictable. The Stoics teach us that life is a series of events over which we have limited influence. We cannot control the winds, but we can adjust the sails. This is where the power of choice lies, not in shaping the world to our liking, but in shaping our response to it. If we understand that we are always in control of our thoughts and our reactions, then we can let go of regret. We cease to lament what is beyond us and focus instead on what is within our grasp, the present moment, and the wisdom we can glean from every experience. Regret often arises from an emotional attachment to outcomes. We set goals, we make plans, and when things don't go as expected, we blame ourselves. But the Stoic perspective is clear. We should focus not on the result, but on the process. The Stoic sees no failure in doing one's best, regardless of the outcome. If we have acted in alignment with virtue, with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, then we have done all that is required. The result, whether success or failure, is beyond our control and does not define us. Regret also comes from an obsession with perfection. We live in a world that celebrates flawless execution, where mistakes are often seen as signs of weakness or failure. But the Stoics, with their unshakable wisdom, understood that perfection is an illusion. The pursuit of perfection, in fact, is a form of self-torture, for no one can attain it. Instead, the Stoic seeks excellence in action, but excellence is not synonymous with flawlessness. Excellence lies in our ability to endure adversity with grace, to learn from every experience, and to cultivate wisdom through reflection. To regret an imperfection is to miss the point of life itself, which is not to be perfect, but to be virtuous. To truly understand regret, we must also examine its root cause, the false belief that we are in control of everything. In truth, we can only control our will and our choices. The events that occur in our lives, the people we encounter, the circumstances we face, the challenges we meet are beyond our full control. What is within our control is our response. When we look back at the past, we often fail to see that we acted based on the knowledge and circumstances we had at the time. The person we were yesterday was different from the person we are today. We have gained due understanding, perhaps, and have been shaped by experience. To regret is to judge our former selves with the wisdom of today, forgetting that we acted with the best of intentions at that time. The Stoic accepts that past actions, once taken, cannot be undone, and thus they need not be regretted. Instead of allowing regret to consume us, the Stoic teaches us to view the past with a mindset of gratitude. Every experience, whether positive or negative, has contributed to the person we are now. Every mistake has been a lesson, every failure a chance for growth. We must not see regret as a punishment, but as an opportunity to learn to adjust our sails and to chart a wiser course for the future. The Stoic embraces the past, not as a weight to bear, but as a foundation upon which to build a better future. In the end, to understand regret is to understand the limitations of our control. We must accept that what has happened is beyond our power to change. We must turn our attention away from the past and focus on the present, where our true power lies. Regret is not a force that has power over us unless we allow it. By embracing the Stoic principles of wisdom, acceptance, and virtue, we can free ourselves from its grip and live a life without regret. In every moment, we are faced with the opportunity to act with clarity and purpose, and it is in these moments that our peace and strength are forged. The Stoic approach to life's challenges. Life, in its essence, is a series of challenges, obstacles, and struggles. These are not mere accidents or misfortunes, but the very fabric of our existence. From birth to death, we are confronted by trials, some of which are within our control, while others are entirely beyond us. The Stoic approach to life's challenges is not one of avoidance or despair, but one of understanding and mastery. It teaches us that challenges are not to be feared, but to be embraced as opportunities for growth, strength, and wisdom. The first lesson the Stoics impart is the distinction between what is in our control and what is not. This simple yet profound truth forms the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. We cannot control the events that unfold in our lives, nor can we determine the actions of others. However, we retain full control over how we respond to these events and actions. Life's challenges, whether they manifest as personal failures, external adversities, or the unanticipated twists of fate, are inevitable. But what is never inevitable is how we respond. To the Stoic, adversity is not something to avoid, but something to seek with resolve and understanding. We are taught not to resist or deny the difficulties that come our way, but to meet them with calmness and clarity. Every challenge presents an opportunity to exercise the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When faced with hardship, we are called upon to use wisdom to discern what is within our control, courage to act in the face of fear, justice to treat others with fairness and integrity, and temperance to maintain balance and avoid overreaction. By applying these virtues to life's challenges, we cultivate a sense of inner peace and strength that no external circumstance can shake. The Stoic does not view challenges as negative events, but as tests of character, tests of virtue, tester. When faced with difficulty, the Stoic's first thought is not to complain or wish for the situation to be different, but rather to ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? The Stoic sees every challenge as a mirror, reflecting back to us the state of our mind, our character, and our resilience. It is through these trials that we come to understand the true nature of our being, and it is in overcoming them with wisdom and grace that we demonstrate the strength of our inner character. In the face of adversity, the Stoic maintains what is called the reserve clause. This means that they acknowledge the uncertainty of the outcome but commit to taking the most virtuous action regardless. For instance, if one is faced with the challenge of losing a job, the Stoic does not dwell on the external circumstances or complain about the unfairness of the situation. Instead, they focus on their response. They ask themselves, what can I control in this moment? How can I act with integrity and courage? The Stoic may take the opportunity to reflect on their own skills, to plan for the future, or to help others who are also struggling. By focusing on what can be controlled, their actions, their thoughts, their choices, they can transform a potential setback into a stepping stone for growth. Furthermore, the Stoic believes in the importance of preparation. Life's challenges are not random, nor are they unexpected in the grand scheme of things. The Stoics teach that we should prepare ourselves for hardship, for difficulty, and for suffering, not as a form of pessimism, but as a form of wisdom. The Stoic practices what is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, a practice that involves imagining the worst-case scenarios in order to be mentally and emotionally prepared for them. This does not mean dwelling on negativity or anticipating failure, but rather it means accepting that hardship is a natural part of life. By preparing ourselves for difficulty, we can face it with equanimity when it arrives. Consider the Stoic practice of viewing adversity as something that strengthens rather than weakens us. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the idea that it is through the trials of life that we are forged. Like iron that must be tempered in fire, our character is shaped through struggle. Without adversity, we would never know the depth of our own strength. It is in the moments of hardship that we find out who we truly are, what we are made of, and how deeply we are rooted in virtue. Challenges are not to be feared, but embraced, for they are the very means through which we cultivate resilience and wisdom. The Stoic approach also involves the practice of detachment. When confronted with challenges, we must remember that our happiness and peace are not dependent on external events. If we place our sense of well-being on the outcome of circumstances beyond our control, we will always be vulnerable to disappointment, frustration, and regret. The Stoic does not tie their contentment to the external world, but instead seeks inner tranquility by focusing on their own responses. When faced with difficulty, they remind themselves that their peace of mind is not dependent on the resolution of the situation, but on how they choose to face it. This detachment is not indifference or passivity, but rather a recognition that true peace comes from within. Furthermore, the Stoic understands the importance of enduring difficulty with grace and dignity. To face a challenge with resentment or bitterness only adds suffering to an already difficult situation. The Stoic's response to adversity is not to add emotional turmoil to the experience, but to approach it with composure and clarity. This does not mean suppressing emotions, but rather understanding them and choosing not to let them dictate our actions. By maintaining a sense of equanimity, the Stoic demonstrates true strength not in the absence of pain or difficulty, but in the ability to remain grounded despite them. In the end, the Stoic approach to life's challenges is one of mastery. Not mastery over external events, for that is beyond our control, but mastery over our own minds, our own responses, and our own actions. By cultivating wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we are not only prepared to face life's inevitable hardships, but to thrive in spite of them. Challenges, instead of breaking us, become the means by which we grow stronger, wiser, and more virtuous. To live as a Stoic is not to avoid life's challenges, but to embrace them fully, to meet them head-on with the knowledge that they are opportunities for growth, and to face them with the unshakable resolve that comes from living a life of purpose and virtue. Recognizing what you can control. One of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy, and perhaps the most powerful tool in our quest to live without regret, is the understanding of control. The Stoic approach teaches us that life's struggles and challenges stem not from the external events themselves, but from our inability to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. It is this very distinction that separates the peaceful and virtuous life from one marked by suffering and frustration. Regret arises when we mistakenly invest our energy in things we cannot change. Freedom comes when we redirect our focus toward what we can influence: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses to the world. In the Stoic view, the universe is a vast and intricate web of causes and effects, and we are but one part of this whole. The natural world operates according to its own laws, and human beings, in all their complexity, must accept the limits of their power. There is so much that lies beyond our control: the actions of others, the course of nature, the inevitable march of time. These are forces beyond our ability to bend or shape. However, within this grand flow of events, there is one thing that remains completely within our control: our response to the events themselves. We are the stewards of our own thoughts, attitudes, and choices, and in that domain we hold ultimate power. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, taught that we should only concern ourselves with what is within our power to change and accept with equanimity what lies beyond it. To focus on that which we cannot control is to invite frustration, anxiety, and regret into our lives. In his discourses, Epictetus writes, "Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us." This simple yet profound statement encapsulates the essence of Stoic wisdom. When we understand this distinction, we no longer waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. Instead, we learn to focus on what truly matters: our own actions, our own mindset, and our own character. To recognize what you can control requires a deep level of self-awareness. It demands that we pause, step back, and ask ourselves, what is my role in this situation? What am I able to influence? The answer lies not in the circumstances, but in our attitude toward them. If we are confronted with a challenge, we cannot control the outcome, but we can control how we approach the situation. We may not be able to prevent a loss or avoid an external misfortune, but we can choose how we respond to it. We may not be able to control other people's thoughts or actions, but we can control the way we treat them and the way we allow their behavior to affect us. When we recognize what we can control, we free ourselves from the grip of anxiety and regret. The Stoic does not waste time wishing for a different reality, one that might have been or could be. Instead, the Stoic embraces the reality that is. When we focus on what we can control, we find ourselves liberated from the tyranny of external events. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, they are ours to command. In this domain we hold sovereignty. The Stoic does not allow external events to determine their state of mind, for they know that they are the masters of their inner world. To externalize control is to abdicate responsibility for our peace, for it is not the circumstances that shape us, but the way we choose to respond to them. The recognition of what we can control is also tied to the cultivation of resilience. Life, in its essence, is full of challenges. We will face setbacks, disappointments, losses, and moments of despair. Yet, the Stoic response to such events is not one of surrender or bitterness, but of strength. When we understand that we cannot control everything, we stop resisting life's natural flow. Instead, we accept what comes, knowing that our power lies in how we meet it. We recognize that even in the face of adversity, we can maintain our inner peace. By focusing on our own response and our ability to act with virtue, we become resilient in the face of any challenge. The recognition of control also requires the practice of detachment. To act with wisdom is to detach ourselves from the outcomes of our actions. We should not tie our sense of worth to success or failure, for both are beyond our full control. What matters in the Stoic sense is not whether we succeed or fail, but whether we acted in accordance with virtue. Whether or not our actions lead to the desired result is secondary to whether we approach the situation with integrity, courage, and clarity. By detaching ourselves from the fruits of our labor, we free ourselves from the destructive grip of expectation. We act for the sake of acting rightly, not for the sake of reward or recognition. In practical terms, recognizing what you can control means living with intentionality. It means making deliberate choices in each moment, focusing only on that which is within your power. If you are faced with a difficult person, you cannot control their behavior, but you can control how you respond. You can choose patience over anger, understanding over judgment, calm over frustration. If you are faced with a loss or a setback, you cannot undo the event, but you can choose to see it as an opportunity for growth. You can choose to learn from it, to reflect on your actions, and to find peace in the acceptance of what has happened. Every moment offers us a chance to practice this focus on what is within our control. This principle also applies to our internal world, our thoughts, our emotions, and our mindset. We cannot always control the thoughts that enter our minds, but we can control which thoughts we allow to take root. We can choose to let go of negativity, of regret, of fear, and to replace them with thoughts of virtue, wisdom, and resilience. The Stoic practice of mindfulness involves constantly returning to the present moment and focusing on what is in our power to do now. In this way, we live each day with purpose, acting with intention and integrity. To truly recognize what we can control is to take full responsibility for our own lives. The Stoic does not blame external circumstances or other people for their misfortunes. Instead, they take ownership of their actions, their thoughts, and their reactions. They understand that their response is always within their control, and it is in this response that their character is forged. By recognizing what we can control, we stop being passive victims of circumstance and become active participants in shaping our own destiny. Ultimately, the recognition of control is a practice that leads us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. It teaches us that while we cannot dictate the course of events, we are always in command of how we meet them. By focusing on what we can control, we cease to be governed by the whims of fate, and instead, we become the masters of our own actions and responses. In this mastery, we find the freedom to live with purpose, clarity, and peace. And in this freedom, we find the power to live without regret. Accepting the past without resistance. The past is a realm we can neither alter nor revisit, yet it holds a powerful sway over our minds. Regret feeds on our inability to accept what has already occurred. It compels us to relive moments of perceived failure, to question decisions made, and to dwell on missed opportunities. However, from a Stoic perspective, this fixation on the past is both futile and self-destructive. The past is immutable, and our task is not to change it, but to accept it fully and without resistance. The Stoics understood that lamenting the past is a misuse of our mental and emotional energy. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that the present moment is all we ever truly possess. Confine yourself to the present, he advises, for it is only in the now that we have the power to act, think, and choose. To live in the past is to forfeit the present, and in doing so we sacrifice the only space where growth and transformation can occur. Regret anchors us to what cannot be changed, but acceptance liberates us, allowing us to live fully in the present. Acceptance does not mean approval or complacency. It does not require us to condone past mistakes or injustices. Instead, acceptance is a recognition of reality, a conscious acknowledgement that what has happened is beyond our influence. When we resist the past, we create inner turmoil. We replay events, imagine different outcomes, and criticize our former selves. This mental resistance deepens our suffering because it is a denial of the fundamental truth: the past is fixed. No amount of wishing, grieving, or self-recrimination will undo what has been done. To accept the past without resistance, we must first confront our regrets head-on. We cannot simply bury them or pretend they do not exist. The Stoic path is one of courage and clarity. We must examine our past actions and decisions with honesty and humility. Ask yourself, did I act with the best knowledge and intentions I had at the time? Did I make choices based on the circumstances I faced? Often we find that our past selves acted out of a limited understanding or emotional response, both of which are human and natural. By recognizing this, we can extend compassion to ourselves. We acknowledge our imperfections not as flaws to regret, but as opportunities for learning and growth. In examining the past, it is also crucial to identify the lessons embedded within our experiences. Every mistake, every failure, and every disappointment carries within it the seed of wisdom. The Stoic approach is to extract this wisdom and use it to guide our future actions. Seneca famously said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." The past, no matter how painful, is a teacher. If we approach it with an open mind, we transform regret into growth and suffering into strength. The Stoic sees the past not as a chain that binds, but as a foundation upon which to build a wiser and more resilient self. Another aspect of accepting the past is the practice of amor fati, or love of fate. This concept, central to Stoic thought, encourages us to embrace everything that has happened, not just with resignation, but with love. To practice amor fati is to see every event, good or bad, as a necessary part of our journey. It is to say, this happened, and it has shaped who I am today. By loving our fate, we cease to view the past as something to regret and begin to see it as something to honor. We recognize that every experience has contributed to our growth, and that even our deepest pains have forged our character. The practice of acceptance also involves releasing the illusion of control over the past. Human nature inclines us to believe that if we had acted differently, events would have unfolded more favorably. Yet, this belief rests on the false premise that we possess complete control over outcomes. The Stoic knows that while our actions are within our control, the consequences often are not. Many factors influence the course of events, the actions of others, chance occurrences, and the complex interplay of circumstances. By clinging to the notion that we could have changed the past, we burden ourselves with an impossible responsibility. Acceptance frees us from this burden, allowing us to focus on what we can influence: the present and our future actions. Forgiveness is another crucial element in accepting the past. This forgiveness is not only extended to others, but also to ourselves. When we hold on to resentment or self-blame, we remain trapped in the past. Forgiveness is a release, a letting go of the emotional weight that regret imposes. To forgive does not mean to forget or excuse. It means to acknowledge the past without letting it define us. By forgiving, we reclaim our power and free ourselves from the cycle of regret. The Stoic forgives not out of weakness, but out of strength, knowing that forgiveness is an act of courage and clarity. In accepting the past, we must also confront the reality of loss. Life is transient, and loss is inevitable. We lose people, opportunities, and moments that will never return. Regret often stems from our resistance to this truth. We wish we had spent more time with a loved one, taken a different path, or seized a fleeting opportunity. Yet the Stoic understands that loss is part of the natural order. By accepting this, we find peace. We honor the memories of what was lost, but we do not let them overshadow our present. Instead, we carry those memories forward, allowing them to enrich our lives rather than burden them. To live without regret, we must also cultivate gratitude for the past. Even our darkest moments have given us something: a lesson, a strength, a new perspective. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we have lost to what we have gained. It allows us to see the past not as a series of mistakes, but as a journey of growth. When we practice gratitude, we transform regret into appreciation. We recognize that every experience, even the painful ones, has contributed to our development. The Stoic embraces gratitude as a powerful antidote to regret, a reminder that life in all its complexity is a gift. Ultimately, accepting the past without resistance is an act of liberation. It frees us from the chains of regret and allows us to live fully in the present. By acknowledging that the past cannot be changed, we reclaim our power over the present. We shift our focus from what was to what is, from regret to action, from sorrow to strength. The Stoic does not dwell on what might have been, they act with purpose in the here and now. In this acceptance, we find the key to living a life without regret, a life of clarity, resilience, and peace. Embracing present moment awareness. To live without regret, one must learn to inhabit the present fully, for regret often arises from dwelling on the past or anxiously anticipating the future. The Stoics understood that life exists only in the present moment. The past is gone, unchangeable and distant. The future is uncertain, beyond our control and yet to come. What we have and all we ever truly have is the present, the here and now. To waste it in rumination or worry is to squander the most valuable gift we possess. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of this truth in his meditations. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This is not a call to fear death, but a call to live with urgency and purpose. Each moment is fleeting, and we must treat it as precious. By focusing on the present, we align ourselves with the flow of life, experiencing it fully and responding to it with clarity and virtue. Present moment awareness is not merely about existing in the now, but engaging with it actively and intentionally. Too often we allow our minds to drift into memories of past failures or future worries, and in doing so we rob ourselves of the ability to act decisively in the present. The Stoic rejects this habit, choosing instead to bring full attention to the task at hand. Whether engaging in conversation, performing a duty, or simply observing the world, the Stoic strives to be fully present. By doing so, they eliminate regret rooted in inattention or negligence, knowing they have given their best effort to every moment. This practice of presence requires discipline. The mind, left unchecked, will wander. It will pull us into imagined scenarios, tempt us with distractions, and burden us with emotional baggage. The Stoic response is to cultivate mindfulness, of vigilant awareness of where our attention is directed. When the mind drifts, we gently guide it back to the present, recognizing that this redirection is an exercise in strength. Each moment we reclaim from distraction is a victory over regret, for regret flourishes in the absence of mindful living. To embrace the present, we must also confront the tendency to overvalue future outcomes. It is natural to plan and hope, but when our happiness becomes tethered to future success, we forfeit our ability to find contentment in the present. The Stoic understands that the future is shaped by our present actions, not by wishful thinking. By focusing on what we can do now, we take ownership of our fate. Planning becomes purposeful rather than anxiety-driven, and action becomes a source of fulfillment rather than a means to an end. In this way, the Stoic eliminates the regret of wasted time and unfulfilled potential by turning attention to what can be done in the present. Another critical aspect of present moment awareness is learning to appreciate simple pleasures. Life is not merely a series of grand achievements or significant events. It is composed of countless small moments that pass by unnoticed if we are not paying attention. The warmth of the sun, the sound of a loved one's voice, the satisfaction of completing a task, these are the moments that fill our days. The Stoic finds joy in these seemingly mundane experiences, understanding that they are the essence of life. By appreciating them fully, we cultivate a deep sense of gratitude and presence, reducing the likelihood of looking back with regret on missed opportunities for happiness. Moreover, the Stoic recognizes that present moment awareness involves a commitment to living in accordance with virtue at all times. Each moment presents a choice: to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, or to fall into vice and negligence. The Stoic chooses virtue, knowing that by doing so they create a life free of regret. When our actions align with our values, we experience a profound sense of peace. Even in the face of adversity or failure, we can reflect on our conduct with pride, knowing we acted rightly in the moment. This alignment between action and virtue is the foundation of a life well lived. Practicing present moment awareness also helps us navigate relationships with greater clarity and compassion. When we are fully present with others, we listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and engage more authentically. We avoid the regret of missed connections and misunderstood intentions. Instead of rushing through conversations or letting our minds wander, we give our full attention, fostering deeper bonds and reducing the potential for conflict. The Stoic values sincerity and attentiveness, knowing that the quality of our relationships is determined by how we show up in each moment. The practice of embracing the present also strengthens our resilience. Life will inevitably present challenges, but when we focus on the present, we face difficulties with greater composure. We are not overwhelmed by the magnitude of a problem, but address it step by step, moment by moment. The Stoic remains calm in the face of adversity, understanding that worry about the future only compounds suffering. By staying grounded in the present, we maintain clarity and strength, reducing the likelihood of regret caused by panic or poor decision-making. Finally, present moment awareness is a path to true freedom. When we release our attachment to past regrets and future anxieties, we liberate ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We are no longer trapped by what was or what won't be. We are fully alive in what is. This freedom allows us to experience life with openness, curiosity, and joy. The Stoic cherishes this freedom, knowing that it is the key to living without regret. By grounding ourselves in the present, we embrace life as it unfolds, ready to meet each moment with courage and grace. In embracing present moment awareness, we reclaim our power. We stop living in the shadows of the past or the uncertainties of the future and step into the light of the present. Every breath, every action, every thought becomes meaningful. In this way, we not only avoid the burden of regret, but also cultivate a life of purpose, clarity, and fulfillment. The Stoic understands that the present moment is all we have, and that by living fully in it, we create a life without regret, a life rooted in virtue, strength, and unwavering presence. Practicing voluntary discomfort to build resilience. To live without regret, we must prepare ourselves for the inevitable hardships life presents. The Stoics understood that comfort breeds complacency, and complacency weakens our ability to face adversity with courage and clarity. One of the most powerful Stoic practices for fortifying the mind and body is voluntary discomfort. This deliberate exposure to discomfort trains us to endure life's challenges without fear or regret. By embracing discomfort willingly, we transform it from a source of suffering into a tool for personal growth and resilience. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, frequently advocated for practicing hardship. He advised his friend to occasionally sleep on a hard surface, wear coarse clothing, or eat meager meals. These practices were not about asceticism for its own sake, but about preparing the mind to remain steadfast in the face of misfortune. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" By experiencing discomfort voluntarily, we reduce the power of fear over us. We learn that we can endure more than we think, and that material luxuries are not essential to our well-being. The practice of voluntary discomfort is not limited to physical hardship. It extends to emotional and psychological challenges as well. For example, we might choose to face situations that make us uncomfortable, such as confronting a fear, having a difficult conversation, or taking responsibility for a mistake. By doing so, we strengthen our emotional resilience and reduce the likelihood of future regret. When we willingly engage with discomfort, we gain confidence in our ability to handle adversity, which in turn diminishes the fear that often leads to avoidance and regret. Voluntary discomfort also teaches us the value of gratitude. When we deliberately step away from comfort, we develop a deeper appreciation for the things we often take for granted. A warm bed, a nourishing meal, or a kind word from a friend becomes more meaningful after we have experienced their absence. This heightened sense of gratitude fosters contentment and reduces our tendency to dwell on what we lack or what could have been. By appreciating what we have in the present, we eliminate the regret of neglecting life's simple pleasures. Furthermore, practicing discomfort helps us detach from the external trappings of success. In modern life, it is easy to become ensnared by the pursuit of wealth, status, and luxury, believing that these things are essential for happiness. The Stoic recognizes that true happiness lies within, independent of external circumstances. By periodically stripping away comforts, we remind ourselves that we can find peace and contentment without them. This detachment from material possessions reduces the fear of loss and regret, allowing us to focus on what truly matters: our character, our virtues, and our relationships. Another benefit of voluntary discomfort is the development of self-discipline. When we choose to endure discomfort, we strengthen our willpower. We learn to control our impulses, delay gratification, and remain steadfast in the face of temptation. This discipline carries over into all aspects of life, enabling us to make wiser choices and avoid the regret that often accompanies impulsive actions. The Stoic does not shy away from discomfort but welcomes it as an opportunity to cultivate inner strength and mastery over desires. Practicing discomfort also sharpens our perspective on suffering. When we experience hardship willingly, we build empathy for those who endure it unwillingly. We become more compassionate and understanding, recognizing that suffering is a shared human experience. This empathy deepens our connections with others and reduces the isolation that often accompanies regret. By practicing voluntary discomfort, we develop a sense of solidarity with others, fostering a more generous and open-hearted approach to life. Moreover, voluntary discomfort enhances our ability to remain calm under pressure. When we expose ourselves to challenging situations, we build a reservoir of inner strength that we can draw upon in times of crisis. The Stoic is not caught off guard by adversity because they have already rehearsed it in their mind and body. They face challenges with composure, knowing they have prepared for such moments. This preparedness eliminates the regret of reacting poorly under stress, allowing us to navigate difficult situations with grace and wisdom. This practice also encourages us to confront our fears directly. Fear of discomfort often drives us to avoid certain experiences or challenges, leading to missed opportunities and subsequent regret. By voluntarily facing discomfort, we weaken fear's grip on our lives. We prove to ourselves that we can endure hardship, and that fear is often more debilitating than the discomfort itself. The Stoic understands that fear thrives in avoidance, but it dissipates when confronted. By practicing discomfort, we build the courage to face life head-on, reducing the regret of missed chances. Incorporating voluntary discomfort into our lives requires consistency and intentionality. It is not enough to practice it sporadically, we must make it a regular part of our routine. Whether through fasting, exercising in challenging conditions, or engaging in difficult conversations, we can find countless opportunities to embrace discomfort. Each act, no matter how small, contributes to our resilience and fortitude. Over time, these practices accumulate, shaping us into individuals capable of meeting life's challenges without hesitation or regret. Ultimately, voluntary discomfort is a path to freedom. When we learn to endure discomfort without fear, we free ourselves from the constant pursuit of comfort and security. We realize that our well-being is not dependent on external circumstances, but on our inner strength and perspective. This freedom allows us to live more fully, taking risks and pursuing our values without the burden of fear or regret. The Stoic embraces discomfort as a means of liberation, knowing that in hardship we discover our true strength. By practicing voluntary discomfort, we fortify our minds and bodies against the inevitable challenges of life. We become resilient, disciplined, and grateful, capable of facing adversity without regret. The Stoic does not seek a life of ease, but a life of purpose and virtue. In embracing discomfort, we prepare ourselves for whatever life may bring, ensuring that we meet each moment with courage, clarity, and unwavering resolve. In this preparation, we find the key to a life without regret, a life of strength, wisdom, and unshakable peace.